Oh, you want me to go?
I mean, you normally go.
Oh, yeah. Every time it's the same thing. False starts. Hi, everybody. This is Jason.
And this is Pete.
And this is the Lost Legion podcast. And today, we're here to talk to you about, what are we talking about, Pete?
Talk about Broken or Beautiful, our brand new topic. Is that right?
The revised from Dreadnoughts.
Yeah. So we're here to talk to you guys today about stop running a specific unit. And what unit is that, Jay?
Well, Pete thinks you should stop running Volkite Culverins.
Oh, yes. Because you definitely should.
Pete, why don't we run through kind of what they do and why you have so much disdain for them?
Okay, so played a few games now. I think it's fair to say that we both have, right? I personally haven't ran any heavy weapons teams, but I've come up against these guys a number of times.
You've run from heavy weapons teams.
I've not even had the chance to run because I've been defeated to a man in a single round of shooting. But yes, I've cowered as the player. What they do, they are just absolutely amazing at culling infantry and infantry at range, right? That is purely what these guys are designed to do. And they're given the way the game is now with the reactions, and I don't think it's reactions' fault as such, there's just so much output coming out from these guys, right?
Right, like, so if you shoot at them, it's a 10-man unit, it's got 50 shots back at you?
Yeah, so each gun is what? Heavy 5, range 45 inches, strength 6, AP 5, I want to say, with deflagrate.
Yep, 45 inches, strength 6, AP 5, heavy 5, deflagrate.
And they're coming in at 225 points, if I'm not mistaken, for a full squad of 10. 235 if you add a augury scanner, I think. So, super low points cost for 50 shots. Right. And they just destroy units.
What is your main issue with that, then? Why are they so good? Why are they so broken?
They're far too efficient for the points cost. So I think that's it. I think they need to be more points or less shots or something. It's the wounding on 2s, right? It's, that makes a huge difference from perhaps compared to a heavy bolter squad, for example. It's the range they can reach out to, the deflagrate rule, getting to wound again if there's unsaved wounds, or the opportunity to wound again, rather. They just destroy units. As I say, I've lost an entire 20-man breacher squad with Feel No Pain to one round of shooting from one of these squads before. They're nuts. And you see them everywhere. I think that's the reason why I wanted to talk about this. And actually, I want to talk about this before the event we just ran, the one that you helped at, Jay. Thank you very much again, obviously.
No worries.
Just thought I'd publicly thank you. And 1 in 4 players had one of these squads, right? Which is crazy considering how many, there must be, six odd different gun options in the heavy weapons choice?
Yeah.
And that's what it gets to.
So, I mean, I see where you're coming from. I don't think it bothers me as much as you do. I actually like them. I think they're a cool option. I like the deflagrate rule with the extra hit. I don't think they needed the buff of the extra shot. I think they were kind of fine before because it used to be 4 shots and now they're 5. So I see where you're coming from. And I think that what you've had and what I think can happen on both sides is a negative player experience, especially with the return fire mechanic. And again, like kind of what I talk about with the Night Lords, it's just something you kind of have to be aware of when you play with people. And I think being upfront about it, it kind of depends on your meta. In my personal opinion, it kind of depends on your meta. It kind of depends on the games you're playing, right? So if I took this to a tournament where people are playing as hard as they can to kill you because they want to win, because they want the trophy of doom, then I wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
Volkite
for sure.
And all. The thing I do agree with you about is that, if you go to a narrative game and you have all Volkite squads, all like I'm just going to use some other examples, all recon squads with Nemesis bolters, right? Like when everybody's taking the same options, that kind of infers to me that the gameplay balancing around that is broken. Yeah. Whether that be they're too cheap, whether that be they're too, good, like whether they need to be toned down. But when everybody has it and it becomes this like ubiquitous option that everyone wants to take, then like it's just showing that there's a problem. And that's where I agree with you completely, like 100%. But like, should you feel horrible if you own these guys? No, in my opinion. But at the same time, like you need to be aware that, like what Pete said, that like you can ruin somebody's day by just utterly crushing their soul. So like,
yeah, I think it's just I think you're right. It's the negative experience for both. Like it shouldn't be. What are we now? We're 7-8 months into the edition, and it's a little bit, in my opinion, becoming a bit eye roll. Oh yeah, of course you've got the 10-man Volkite squad because why wouldn't you, sort of thing. And that, when there's the units that are, of course you have, like the recon squad that you mentioned, actually, that's a bit, a bit dull to begin with.
Well, I mean, when I made my Imperial Fist list, that was like Pete and I had this thing where I was like, I'm going to make the dirtiest list possible. And I showed it to him. And I was like, you make a dirty list. So we talked dirty lists to each other. What
are you wearing? What are you taking? What are you taking in your list?
Volkite Culverin squad and Nemesis bolters. In that list, with the Imperial Fist, mind you, so they're good at shooting auto weapons and bolters. What did I have? A squad of Volkite Culverins.
Yeah.
So I mean, yes. What about some good alternatives? Why don't we throw? So you don't want to be, you don't want to do that. What are some other alternatives, and why would you take them?
Yeah, so they are out and about, like fully, very easily the best option. I think arguably less cannons as well, but that's another story, I guess. The alternatives, there's 3 alternatives I see people could dabble with, and I think they'd have varied success with. Autocannons. I don't know if anyone's run 10 autocannons yet. Drop a comment if you have. Let us know how you got on with them, because I don't see them all too often. But what are they now? Are they 2 shots? Rending 6+ now, aren't they?
Yeah. I think they're rending 6+.
Yeah, similar range.
Rending 5+.
I think it's 6.
We were, yeah,
I'm pretty
definitely.
sure it's 6.
I think rending 6. Yeah, same range. Rending 6.
Yeah. Strength 7. Yeah. So they can, with the rend, so they can hurt vehicles a lot more easily. All right, it's 2 shots rather than 5. I think that's the thing, right? Culling infantry, it doesn't matter that you're rending when you're 3 shots less with the flagellate, right? But it means you can tap into dreadnoughts a bit more easily, wounding on 4s against a toughness 7 dreadnought. On a 6, you're going to ignore their armor save as well. So, they become a little bit more versatile in perhaps what the different varied units they can shoot at, rather than just absolutely dominating infantry. Another good option, I think, or a fun option to see on the board perhaps, would be heavy bolters. I know you might be thinking, well, for the sake of 50 points, why wouldn't you take the Volkite Culverins on a squad of 10? And you're right to definitely do that in terms of the ability to play it, right?
Yeah, but you are correct when you think that.
Yeah, it literally is right. You don't see enough heavy bolters though. They're cool. it's one of the staple weapons from years gone by, right? I'd love to see more of them. And I think people would be surprised at how much output they can still put out. It will be nowhere near compared to a Volkite Culverin, of course. And the one I want to see more of for sure, because I think it's got a place, is missile launchers.
Yeah.
All right, just with the different ammo types, right? You've got the crack rounds, strength 8 AP3. So you're rolling 1s on Terminators. It's bye Terminators. That's always fun. You're obviously instantly destroying anything in power armor and ignoring feel no pain on a standard toughness 4 unit. You've still got the range as well. What else you got? You got the frag round, which I believe strength 4 AP6. Do you remember that? I think that's what it was.
So
unless it's changed.
Frag round, I think, is the best one because I think the frag round is pinning now. So
is it?
Yeah. So I think
that makes sense.
If you throw 1 million frag rounds into something, it's actually pretty good. So I used to take this in 1.0. I have 2 squads, one Alpha Legion and one Space Wolf missile launcher squad, and I would pile frag rounds on people on their Terminators, actually. And you would this is when Terminators were 1 wound and they didn't have rerolls to save. But like, you can still do it to troops and pile wounds on them, and you can use the missile launcher. So like, I mean, partially, I think the problem here is, and I think what we maybe didn't highlight enough, in my opinion, is that the Volkites are just too cheap. Like, for what they are, because you look at the alternatives and you're like, well, you just said it. You're like, well, it's 50 points more from the heavy bolters, right? Like, 50 points is really nothing for the like amount of value that you get for these things. I think that's the problem. So like, I think they need to cost more, and the heavy bolters less. Like, the heavy bolters seem to do what they're put out to do. Like, they have an extra shot now, so they're better. But like, you don't ever see them because it's 50 points more for these Volkite squads, right? Unless somebody has Imperial Fists, they're being themey, and they have 2s. Right? This is the only time I ever see them. And they're still good. Like, they're not
still 40 amazing shots, right?
Yeah.
It's 12-inch less. It's 1 strength less. You lose the deflagerate.
And it's only 50 points less.
You gain AP4 over AP5, which, will make a difference against Solar Orcs, I guess. But at that point, you're killing loads of stuff anyway, right?
But again, missile launchers, I think, suffer from the same thing, where they're not super cheap and they are flexible, but then, you can't do anything about AP2. So it's like, I think the prices are a big problem with the current stats of the weapons. And like you said, like, there's las cannons, which are also really good, but I think that like las cannons also lean into fighting vehicles, so are not as much of a problem, but could be a candidate for is it beautiful or is it broken video as well.
Yeah, I think so, because they're still, I think they're an extra 50 points on top of the Volkites, I think.
Yeah. But they do start getting pricey. So I think just roughly off the top of my head, it's around 300 points for a 10-man squad.
Here's the thing. Sorry, go ahead.
No, of las cannons. Go ahead.
The las cannons are the excluding multi-melter units because of the range, right? The las cannons are probably your go-to heavy weapon squad anti-tank option.
Yeah.
And the Volkites are the go-to anti-infantry option, and the Volkites just need to cost a similar amount to the las cannon squads, really, right? I think that's probably it. I think you're right. The fact that in the tactical support squads, you can get 10 Volkite Calivers, which are the baby version of this, heavy 1 still. They're heavy 3 as opposed to heavy 5. They're range 30, strength 6, AP 5, deflagerate. So a baby version of this. And they're 10 points more for the squad of 10 compared to the Culverins, right? It's crazy.
Which is ridiculous. Yeah,
and
exactly.
The support squads can't buy a augury scanner.
Yes.
But a heavy weapon squad can. So it's like, why would you... Like, they are not getting looked at in this edition at all, right?
Okay. So, final verdict, Pete. Is this unit, the Volkite Caliber, is it broken or is it beautiful?
It's beautifully broken. It's so broken, it's beautiful. It's hands down broken.
I think I have to say that I think it's a little broken as well. I think that it is, again, I think it's just too few points. I mean, again, it's a very efficient point cost if you're trying to, I guess this is the double caveat that I always say. If you're in a hard meta and this is what your friends play, and your friends play super hard, and you want to take the craziest lists that are the most point efficient, and that's the kind of games that you and your friends want to play, well, then take these, right? Like, but if you play in a more narrative meta, which a lot of heresy ones are, and like there are a lot people like tough games, but like, like some people like take some fluffy options. Like this might be a little too strong. Like 10 of them. Maybe take 5.
I want to be clear as well, all the players that came to the event just gone, like, I'm not singling you out. Like, I'm glad you had fun with your Volkite Culverins. I just clocked it like it's like every other table, like, Volkite Culverins, Volkite Culverins, Volkite Culverins.
I can't think of anyone's name, or I would have just called somebody out if I knew them.
Yeah.
If I knew them, that'd be my friend. Otherwise, I can't call them out.
Instead of screaming tomb, we need to scream meme from now on. I think that's it. Memes.
I think it's a cool looking unit, and unfortunately, I think there's a bit of a stigma developing around it.
Yeah, they look great, and the weapon's super
great.
fun, right? And the fluff behind it all is fucking excellent. I love it. Yeah. But yeah, a bit too much. I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's it.
Cool.
Thanks, guys.
If you like the discussion, be sure to give it a like. Hit the subscribe button if you want to catch up with more stuff, and if you fancy showing us extra support, head over to our Patreon. Link is in the description. Cheers, guys.
Thanks, guys. And leave us a comment if you think Volkite Culverin are broken or beautiful.
Let us know.
Bye.
Peace.